Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wages and Wars with myself, Mario Herron. And today we do have more UFC to talk about. We have a fight night this weekend. Freaking finally, right? Feels like forever since we've had one. Dominic Reyes versus Carlos Ulberg. That is the main attraction this weekend. We will get into that fight and more. I also will look into Jake Matthews versus Neil Magny and the welterweight division for that fight. There's a bet I really like in that one. But before we get into all of that, there was a little bit of UFC news this weekend. And that news centers around the UFC White House card. The excitement is there, the anticipation is there. What will it look like? Who will fight in it? A lot to get into. First things first in it, Conor McGregor, right? He does this kind of media tour. I don't know if tour is the right example. He just went on one big media outlet. And while he was there, he pretty much says that he wants to fight in the UFC card for the White House. He pretty much says that he, as far as he knows, will be on there. And my first reaction is Conor McGregor should not be on the White House card. I just don't think he's reliable enough at this point in his career that he should be on there. Nor do I think it's smart to pin Jon Jones's name onto the White House card. Look, they're two of the biggest names in the UFC in the past decade. You could argue the people that are around my age those are the two fighters that they grew up knowing the most in Jon Jones and Conor McGregor. But they both have a lot of evidence to support that they might not be ready for the fight, that they might be pulled out the last second. And when you're on this big of a stage as the White House UFC card, you can't afford those mistakes. Jon Jones just had a saga between him and Tom Aspinall. The fight that never happened. Will this fight happen in the White House? Maybe. He has until June 2026 to figure that out. But I also remember UFC 151 in August of 2012 when Dan Henderson pulled out because of an injury and then he refuses to fight Chael. I remember April 2015, UFC 187. Jones was stripped of his UFC lightweight heavyweight title and spent indefinitely after he was involved in a hit and run with a pregnant woman. I remember UFC 200 when he was pulled from the main event, a rematch with Daniel Cormier because of a doping allegation. And then I also remember UFC 295 versus Stipe. He was forced through a draw after suffering a torn pectoral tendon during training. Some of those, that's on him. Some of those are not. Fact of the matter is, he's older. He's 38 years old. He has tossed the UFC around. He's been unreliable. He said yes to a fight, and then he says no to a fight. And then now you're going to put him on the card? Don't think that's a good idea. You have Conor McGregor. It has been very up in the open that McGregor's had a little bit of a partying problem and a little bit of a substance problem along with that partying. He's done a Hollywood movie. Fantastic. Good for you. Get your money. You've been in a Hollywood movie, though. Fighters that come back from those don't always look the best. He then runs for office in Ireland. Then he's not running for office in Ireland. And he's just dishing out some hot takes. That's usually not a good sign. Then you have him against the Michael Chandler thing. They have a press conference in Dublin. Dublin's pretty close to where he lives. He suddenly pulls out of it. Suddenly cancels. Then he hurts his toe in training. The fight versus him and Michael Chandler suddenly canceled. And then now we're going to trust him to fight in the UFC card in the White House lawn. I don't think it's a good idea. Again, he's 37 years old. One, how much does he even have left in the tank? The guy that he, had this trilogy fight with, Dustin Poirier, just retired. I would say he's got a lot more left in the tank than Conor does. What's the energy? What's the drive? I just don't think it's a good idea to rely on two guys that have not been reliable in the past couple of years. I know they're big names. I know they're big stars, but you have stars that can replace them. Instead of Conor McGregor, Sugar Sean works. Put him with anyone. Maybe he's going to be a rising star beforehand. RDR is on the come up. Bo Nickel's on the come up. Anthony Hernandez has just had an injury. It's pulled out. He should be ready by June 2026 for something. And maybe he has a fight in between then. You have other stars on the roster. Use them. Don't rely on the old names. You don't have to anymore. That's just my point with the UFC and that big, big, big decision they have to make come 2026. Now let's get to the fights out of this weekend. Carlos Ulberg versus Dominic Reyes. That's the biggest one. But before we get to that, let's look at Matthews versus Neal. So Matthews is this guy, he's 22-7, 6 wins by KO. Strikes landed's pretty good, 3.44. Takedowns great, 3 straight wins. 2 out of these 3 wins, he's been on a big reach advantage, which we'll circle back to later. You have Neal, who finally gets a win back in the win column after knocking out Dos Santos in August. He probably felt like, thank the Lord I was able to get one. He looked great in the fight, but he's very up and down. He suffers against really tough competition. Jake Matthews, I think, is the only way to bet this fight. There's a big reach advantage in this one. So Jake Matthews fights, and he's at 73.5-inch reach. Neal's at 80-inch reach. Now, you look at that, and I look at that, and I go, holy cow, I'm going with the 80-inch. But here's the deal. Jake Matthews is used to fighting guys with longer reach. He's probably more fresh and recovered than Neal is. He's also on a hot streak, and he, right now, is the better fighter. Like I said, 2 out of the 3 wins he's had reached disadvantage. He's overcame that. Not something he's not used to. Something he can overcome pretty easily. Also, Neal, in the fights that he has lost, he's got knocked out. So he either puts the guy out or he gets knocked. Hard to trust that, especially you get the guy like Jake Matthews. So I lean on this fight to not go the distance and Jake Matthews to win. Parlay that together, find that together, and win yourself some money. All right, now we have Carlos Ulberg versus Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes, very interesting career. So he's 15-4 from 2020 to 2022. Really tough go. 3 straight fights, 3 straight losses. The real kicker, no pun intended, 3 by KO. So you usually when that happens, you think career spiral. It's over. Hang up the gloves, put them in the middle of the octagon. Thanks for playing. As this kind of resurgence, he goes from a title contender to possibly maybe being cut to the UFC to back in the top 10 and maybe in the mix. Probably a fight away from being in the mix. But he has now won 3 fights in a row. And guess what? All by KO. Suddenly you're getting a little bit of attention. That last one he had, that got everyone's attention. I went into that fight going, I don't know if I can trust him in this. I believe I did bet him in that fight. If I had to circle back and remember, I did. And he handles them. Round 1, 2 minutes and 24 seconds left. But then he faces Carlos Ulberg, who's the 3rd ranked fighter in the light heavyweight division. And this guy's a problem. So he's 13-1, 7 wins by KO, 6 first-round finishes. Strikes landed per minute, 6.77. Kickboxer, 8-fight win streak, 8 in a row. 2 more, you run out of hands. He is something special. What to do here? Well, one, the first thing that sticks out to me is both are kickboxers, both with power to just absolutely take anyone out in any second. So that right away, and I look at Dominic Reyes' past, even though, it's been a while since he's gotten laid out. It's happened to him before. He's older. Could happen again, especially a guy with Carlos's power. So right away, this screams to me, I don't think this is going to go the full distance. I think someone's going to fold, which is exciting. That's exciting stuff. That's what you want on your last fight of the night. You want someone to get laid out. That's the best option. It's just combat business. That sells. That sells on the Instagram Reels, sells on Twitter, TikTok, you name it, baby, it sells. Carlos is also probably 1 fight away from a title shot. That helps a lot. Also in his hometown. Remember that France card? When all the French fighters won? And some people were, going against those French fighters. I don't know who. I was. A couple. And it hurt. In the hometown, they don't go down. They're willing to put it all. There's an extra fire, extra passion. The whole family's there. The cousins, the second cousins, aunts, uncles, sisters, boyfriends, brothers. You name it. They're there. They tend to stand. They tend to go all the way until they have nothing left. Especially when after this one, what happens? Oh, I get a title shot? Okay. I get a chance to become a household name? Okay. You have my attention. I maybe get a shot at Magomed after this? Okay. Yuri? I'll take him. Maybe Alex Pereira after this? Let's talk business. So much of this fight goes into, I think someone's going to fold, and I think Carlos Ulberg's the better fighter. I think he's a hotter guy. I think he can take more damage. And in a kickboxing fight, it's all about who can last the most and who can take the most punches. And I think that's Carlos. And Carlos is also, I think, a little bit more experienced. I think he takes Dominic and handles him pretty well. So I'll take Carlos by KO over Dominic Reyes for the main event. That's what I have for you on Wages and Warriors with myself, Mario Hand. Like, share, and subscribe, or don't subscribe, or don't share. It'd be kind of mean of you, though. Kind of up yours if you do that. Come on now. Be nice. And make sure your mom does too. Happy Mother's Day. That's like 4 months away, but it's always Happy Mother's Day. Thank you guys so much for listening. See you guys next time. Make sure to check out the new Bolt Crew podcast that's up right now, breaking down the Giants versus Chargers game. Preview of that, as well as our NFL Week 4 picks. They're also up there as we speak. Enjoy it as well, and follow us on Instagram that we just started, Bolt Crew Podcast. Appreciate it so much. Marhan, we'll see you next time on Wages and Warriors.